Hello, everybody. This week, I would like to discuss an example of a reading comprehension question. These questions are grouped usually in a few questions per passage. So the questions that we are going to talk about in this presentation are the questions from a previous version of our text, which is the Official Guide for GMAT Review 2017. And the questions are number 412 through 414, and they can be found on pages 372 and 373 of this book. So, the first thing we need to do is read our passage. Now, I'm going to read through this, and I have to apologize because I am positive that I will mispronounce some of these words. But I guess the most important thing that I want to point out, one of the reasons I chose this passage in particular, was because I wanted to demonstrate how you don't really need to be familiar with the material that you're reading about. Everything you need is in the passage that you're reading. So whether you've heard of this material or not, you should be able to decipher and pull out the information that you need to for the questions. So when you're reading this passage, you kind of want to make a mental note of what the passage is about. You don't need to remember details of it. You can always refer back to the passage. The passage is visible while you're answering the question, so you don't necessarily need to remember the specifics, but if you can remember what the main topic of the passage is or what the authors were trying to do, things like that, that's going to help you and save you time when you're answering the questions, and it will be less you have to refer back to the passage. So I'm going to go ahead and read through this. It's 2 slides worth of material, but this is what the passage for these questions says. Scientists long believed that 2 nerve clusters in the human hypothalamus, called suprachiasmatic nuclei, or SCNs, were what controlled our circadian rhythms. Those rhythms are the biological cycles that recur approximately every 24 hours in synchronization with the cycle of sunlight and darkness caused by Earth's rotation. Studies have demonstrated that in some animals, the SCNs control daily fluctuations in blood pressure, body temperature, activity level, and alertness, as well as the nighttime release of the sleep-promoting agent melatonin. Furthermore, cells in the human retina dedicated to transmitting information about light levels to the SCNs have recently been discovered. 4 critical genes governing circadian cycles have been found to be active in every tissue, however, not just the SCNs of flies, mice, and humans. In addition, when laboratory rats that usually ate at will were fed only once a day, peak activity of a clock gene in their livers shifted by 12 hours, whereas the same clock gene in the SCNs remained synchronized with light cycles. While scientists do not dispute the role of the SCNs in controlling core functions such as the regulation of body temperature and blood pressure, scientists now believe that circadian clocks in other organs and tissues may respond to external cues other than light, including temperature changes that recur regularly every 24 hours. So that's the passage that we're given. There's a lot of scientific words in there. There's a lot of details and a lot of information that many of us may not be familiar with. Generally speaking, what I kind of pulled from that passage is, circadian rhythms were thought to control some of these bodily functions, and they're related to light and darkness. There's some new information that's been found recently by scientists, and it doesn't necessarily dispute the role that the SCNs played in controlling these activities of the body, but scientists now have some new information that they believe relates to the circadian clocks. So, it's not super detailed, but in my head, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay, here's some general information about this passage. So we need to look at the first question. So the first question is question 412. And this question asks, the primary purpose of this passage is to. So the answer choices we have are challenge recent findings that appear to contradict earlier findings, present 2 sides of an ongoing scientific debate, report answers to several questions that have long puzzled researchers, discuss evidence that has caused a long-standing belief to be revised, or attempt to explain a commonly misunderstood biological phenomenon. So the way I walk through these types of questions is I take each answer one by one and I eliminate the ones that I know are not correct, which leaves me with, usually a couple that I think, as I quickly go through these, because I'm trying to be efficient, I'll kind of look and say, oh, that's not it. Oh, that could be it. Well, that's not it. That could be it. And I kind of get it down to where there's a couple that maybe could be it, and then that's when I look at them in more detail. So if I know I can eliminate them right off the bat, I will. So question A, or answer choice A, says that the main purpose of this passage is to challenge recent findings that appear to contradict earlier findings. If you go back to the passage, the information that we're given doesn't contradict earlier findings, and I sort of remembered that, it's new information. It doesn't necessarily contradict, it just sort of added on. So answer choice A is not going to be the correct answer. The second choice, present two sides of an ongoing scientific debate. Well, that, in my opinion, that could be it. We had some information about these circadian rhythms. We learned some new information. Is this an ongoing debate between scientists? Might be. So I leave that one as a possible answer choice. The next one, report answers to several questions that have long puzzled researchers. That to me was not the main purpose of this passage. It did present some information that maybe answered some questions that people had, but in my opinion, that was not the main purpose of this passage, so I don't think that's a possible answer choice. So now let's look at answer choice D, discuss evidence that has caused a long-standing belief to be revised. So thinking back to my passage, I remember that we had some information, that there was some new information that was discovered, and scientists were thinking that this information might change what we already knew. So this one to me sounds like maybe it could be the answer, so I'm going to keep this one. And then moving on to answer choice E, attempt to explain a commonly misunderstood biological phenomenon. This answer choice, in my opinion, is not correct because the authors were not, there was no piece of information that was misunderstood that they were trying to explain. They were looking at some information and some new information they had. It wasn't that there was a question originally and they didn't understand it. They understood it, but now they have some new information that helps them to understand it better. So answer choice E is not going to be the correct answer choice. Now we're left with our two, might be kind of answers. So answer choice B, present two sides of an ongoing scientific debate, or answer choice D, discuss evidence that has caused a long-standing belief to be revised. Now at this point, you have your passage, you've narrowed it down to two possible choices. If you need to, you can now go back and look at your passage to finalize your answer. And if I were to go back and look at my passage, I would see that it wasn't two different sides of an ongoing scientific debate. It's not as if the original researchers presented one side of the debate and then these new researchers disputed what was found and they had a different take on the same situation. So they were going back and forth. It was not that. To me, it was that we had this long-standing belief and we've now found some new evidence that maybe has caused us to revise this original belief about circadian rhythms. So in my opinion, the answer is not going to be answer choice B. Our correct answer is going to be answer choice D, discuss evidence that has caused a long-standing belief to be revised. So that's sort of how I walk through, that's my thought process for getting to the final answer in a reading comprehension question like this. Now we can move on to question 413, and question 413 states, the passage mentions each of the following as a function regulated by the SCNs in some animals, except. Our answer choices are activity level, blood pressure, alertness, vision, and temperature. So what I basically do is look at each one of these, go back to the passage, and see if it was mentioned as controlled by these SCNs. So the passage, the paragraph, or the sentence specifically that we're going to look at is studies have demonstrated that in some animals, the SCNs control daily fluctuations in blood pressure, body temperature, activity level, and alertness, as well as the nighttime release of the sleep-promoting agent melatonin. So they're all right there. So if you remember, our question asked us, the big word in our question was accept. It was the SCNs control all of these body activities except what? So we're looking for the one that's not mentioned. So as we go through, we can see that blood pressure is mentioned. We can see that body temperature is mentioned. We can see that activity level is mentioned and alertness is mentioned. So that leaves us with one that was not mentioned, and that is vision. So vision, answer choice D, is going to be our correct answer. Now we move on to question 414, and this question reads, the author of the passage would probably agree with which of the following statements about the SCNs? Now in this case, what we need to do is look at the information, read it, interpret it, and then make our own determination as to which statement we think the author might agree with based on what they have said they think in other parts of the passage. So, again, we want to focus on what we think the author might agree with. Our answer choices are, the SCNs are found in other organs and tissues of the body besides the hypothalamus. The SCNs play a critical but not exclusive role in regulating circadian rhythms. The SCNs control clock genes in a number of tissues and organs throughout the body. The SCNs are a less significant factor in regulating blood pressure than scientists once believed, and the SCNs are less strongly affected by changes in light levels than they are by other external cues. So these are pretty specific. So let's look at the first answer choice. So for these, I like to go answer choice by answer choice, and since we're looking for a statement that the author would agree with, I'm going to try and find something that disputes the answer choice. And if I can't find anything that disputes it, then I'll keep it. So let's look at answer choice A. The SCNs are found in other organs and tissues of the body besides the hypothalamus. The statement to me that relates to this is 4 critical genes governing circadian cycles have been found to be active in every tissue, however, not just the SCNs of flies, mice, and humans. So this tells me that 4 critical genes have been found in every tissue, but not the SCNs. So this statement to me is, and the author would not agree with this. Looking at answer choice B, the SCNs play a critical but not exclusive role in regulating circadian rhythms. Now I went back through the passage. I couldn't find anything that was a clear dispute to this statement. So to me, this answer seems like the correct one, but I'm going to keep going because I want to see if there's something else that also maybe seems correct, and then I might have to go into more details. So answer choice C, the SCNs control clock genes in a number of tissues and organs throughout the body. And the passage or the statement that I found here was, in addition, when laboratory rats that usually ate at will were fed only once a day, peak activity of a clock gene in their liver shifted by 12 hours, whereas the same clock gene in the SCNs remained synchronized with light cycles. So that tells me that these clock genes are regulated by something else besides SCNs, because the clock genes in the SCNs were synchronized with light. So that tells me if, this other activity is happening and shifting not according to light, then that tells me that the author would not agree with this statement. So I'm going to move on to answer choice D. The SCNs are a less significant factor in regulating blood pressure than scientists once believed. Going back to the passage, I see this. While scientists do not dispute the role of the SCNs in controlling core functions such as the regulation of body temperature and blood pressure, Scientists now believe that circadian clocks in other organs and tissues may respond to external cues other than light, including temperature changes that recur regularly every 24 hours. So this tells me that there's no dispute about the SCNs regulating blood pressure. It's just that now there's this new information that's found as well. So that tells me that the author would not agree with answer choice D. And finally, we have answer choice E. The SCNs are less strongly affected by changes in light levels than they are by other external cues. And the information I found here was, while scientists do not dispute the role of the SCNs in controlling core functions, such as the regulation of body temperature and blood pressure, scientists now believe that circadian clocks in other organs and tissues may respond to external cues other than light, including temperature changes that recur regularly every 24 hours. And in addition, when laboratory rats that usually ate at will were fed only once a day, peak activity of a clock gene in their livers shifted by 12 hours, whereas the same clock gene in the SCNs remains synchronized with light cycles. So my statement, the SCNs are less strongly affected by changes in light levels than they are by other external cues. Based on this, it tells me that the SCNs stay affected solely by the light levels, but there are other things that are affected by these external cues that aren't light related, and it tells me that the author's trying to confuse me. So I do not think the author would agree with this statement, and that tells me that the correct answer would be the one that I thought was correct, which was answer choice B. And that, again, was the SCNs play a critical but not exclusive role in regulating circadian rhythms. So that is how I would walk through a reading comprehension question. If you have any questions about the thought process, or like I said, I chose this problem because the information was so scientific and a little bit hard to follow. So that's why I chose this one. But if you do have questions about why I eliminated answer choices, or just the general thought process of reading comprehension, whatever it may be, let me know. You can ask them in our classroom under our discussions for the week, or you can email me directly if you have a question that you don't want to post publicly. So just let me know.